All right. Welcome, everybody, to
Adonis. Hey, hey, Richard.
welcome everybody to the first Saturday in July for 2025. And this is part of the Islands of Sanity in a Mad World course, a course in service to the Collapse-Aware and Collapse-Acceptant communities around the world. And these are sessions are recorded because there are some people, given where they are or what they do for their living and so on, they are not able to be here with us in person. So they'll be watching the recordings themselves. And that's, unless I ask publicly with you all, which I'm not doing today, but we could all decide at the end of these sessions if we would like to have a recorded session available in a public way. This is usually, and I'm planning on today, having this recording just be available to those people who are part of the Living Resilience online community space and are a part of this course. So that's what this is. And this is the first of two sessions today. This one is an hour long from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time. uh, is this first session. We'll then take a half-hour break and come back from 10:30 to
Hmm.
noon, again, Pacific time. And that makes up the two sessions that we have on the first and third Saturdays of each month. So thank you for letting me just speak the kind of logistics of what we're up to. Um, I'm really aware of in my own system, in my own where I look when somebody asks somebody that I, know well, asks me, no, really, Dean, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Where I go to inside of myself to answer that question, I slow down, which I'm doing right now to just cue my system. I don't need to go through logistics now. I can really, wow. So just cueing my system to slow down, to slow my breathing a bit, my thinking a bit, and the pace of my words. That's all my system needed was to start feeling the pressure of tears behind my eyes and also warmth in my face and really an upwelling of a number of emotions. And I'm doing this right now. I'm self-reporting about what I got going on because that's a part of what we do here. For some of you, you're very aware of these cues in your system. You're very aware when you have an upwelling of some emotion, some reaction to something in your world. For some of us, that's a brand new thing. Some of us don't have that self-awareness, that ability to articulate, and then to be able to share that with each other and to then understand how each of us might have chosen particular aspects of our inner world to expand our capacity to be present in the face of a very, very challenging world right now. So that's why I'm speaking about this, the upwelling and the feeling of tears and the flushing of my face and so on. And I wanted to start us out with that kind of sharing just briefly because it has been quite a remarkable world in my own life, and particularly in the various sessions of this Living Resilience is the name of the little organization that this is, and the other meetings that we do on a weekly basis. Different folks come to different sessions, and they've really been something this week. You
Mm.
know, we have on Tuesday night, we have a session that's called Safe Circle. And Safe Circle is from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And you're all so welcome to come. I've seen some of y'all there. And if you haven't heard of it before, if you need any information about anything I mention, I'm happy to connect you with the links. In fact, I have a number of links that might be useful for you today that I'll post at the end. But what's been special this week is I've been offering these uh, online courses, and back in the day there was live courses and online support groups and really in-depth or deep dive experiential um, training groups that we do. I've been doing it for 10 years now. And this last couple of weeks has been a remarkable shift, kind of an organic shift, where in each of the meetings there's been an access that people seem to have um, to a sense of allowing their hearts to be open. And I don't know about y'all, but this is tending to be a time when my heart wants to wall up, wants to armor up. I don't want to feel the rage that I'm feeling, or the grief that I'm feeling, or the fear that I'm feeling when I just watch the news cycle about people being taken away by unmarked police cars by people who won't identify themselves. And I think we all know the list of things we could talk about there. And so I'm very pleased to let you know that I'm seeing a remarkable, what I would say is courage.
Mm.
I think it takes a huge courage to feel right now. So, I have a very different agenda for today, and I want to include you as much as you might like to be included in the ongoing evolution of this, offering this work, which we sometimes call the inner work of collapse. So I look forward to sharing with you some of the elements that seem appropriate for this round, this session, these two sessions today. Want to say a hello to Elle, I believe it is. Hello, Elle, could you introduce yourself a bit? Hello,
Hello?
hello,
Can
Elle.
you not talk to me right now? I don't want to hear it.
Uh,
I'm sorry. Could you tell us who you are?
huh.
Elle, I need you to introduce yourself a little bit because I we're right in the middle of a session. I would love to include you, and I really just need some amount of connection with you to invite you to stay.
Hmm. Huh. Okay.
All right. So I'm sorry. That's very, very rare that that occurs, and I hope you'll understand that I just, for certainly for my sake, and I'm hoping for yours as well, that there needs to be some amount of familiarity with. And for instance, Thomas has from months and months ago when he first showed up in our space. He has an ongoing reluctance or kind of a sometimes a challenge with having his face visible for his own reasons, which he's made clear and shared quite generously about. So it's a very different thing when somebody comes in and we don't know who they are and so on.
Yeah.
So thank you for your patience with that. Just getting back for a moment. I think what I would like to do is now shift gears again because I could feel us being having enough connection and flow to be able to just move into the next piece that was sort of on the on the agenda, if you will. And I think what I'd really love is to give each of us an opportunity to just presence ourselves a bit, to share, to say hello, to let us know where you're calling from and a little bit of what has you here. How you doing? I would like to ask us to check in, and I'm happy to model that. I'm gonna model it as best I can, even though I'm really, really lousy at it. And that is checking in kind of briefly, because otherwise it could our check-ins could take this whole first hour.
Yeah.
So again, I will do my best. I'm Dean Walker. I'm here in Ashland, Oregon. Uh, another wave. Please understand if you've not been with me before, this is really good for me. There's these the tears, the feeling, the things that I'm articulating. These are really good, and I've shared a little bit about how that's good and what that's about. And what I can say is that I'm dog sitting my dog this weekend, and that's a very happy thing. I'm deeply appreciative of every circle I get to be in these times, particularly to do this inner work of collapse together with kindred spirits. I don't know what else I could be doing that could be as valuable, except maybe full on just being in the wilderness, and I don't get to do that right now. So I'm very appreciative of being here, and that's it for me checking in briefly. Is there somebody who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Thank you.
Um, so I'm Jean. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I don't know, something just hit me this week. I'm considering retirement, and and I realized one of the reasons I'm hesitant to retire is that I'm afraid I'm just going to get totally swamped with despair, and that my work gives me some sense of purpose and it's a place to focus my attention. So yeah, yesterday I don't know why, my feelings are kind of like the weather, I think. Sometimes they're very intense and sometimes not so much, but I was feeling quite like I wanted some company, um, trying to navigate all that, if one's paying attention, one must navigate. So, so yeah, that's why I came this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I can go. I'm Richard from Central Texas. Most of you already most of you already heard the thing about all the flooding going on here. I don't know if you heard that, Thomas, but anyway, yeah, we're in the midst of this ongoing flood emergency in the Central Texas area, not exactly where I live, but in various places around where I live, and it's actually pretty bad. Um, so yeah, when that so-called big beautiful bill got passed this week, by the House and Senate, and now it's gotten signed by Trump, and it's truly horrifying. I mean, it is a horrifying piece of legislation, and I don't even know how to feel about all this anymore. It's all gotten so crazy. Um, we got Christians, so-called Christians in this country, desperately trying to suppress many other people and take money away from the poor and take health care away from the poor and doing all these horribly unchristian things, and yet these so-called Christians are in control, and wow, it's really, I don't know what, disgusting, horrifying, terrifying. Uh, and I've been, Dean's been focusing on this a lot. I've been focusing a lot on the emerging Christian nationalism, and that is a nightmare. I mean, there's very little daylight between Christian nationalism and Nazism. It's just a slightly nicer version, maybe, except it isn't really. But anyway, I'm I don't know. I'm very disoriented right now. The last few days have been very strange for me. I'll finish up soon. I just got to mention this. I had a dental appointment that I arranged 4 months ago. I went to the dentist's office Thursday morning, and the office was locked and dark, and there was nobody there. I tried calling them later, and no, I didn't get an answer. They weren't picking up their phone, and
Hmm.
it's just been a very, very strange few days. And then all this flooding hit, and I feel very, I don't know, just discombobulated and almost like confused. It's like, what the hell is going on in my life? It's like everything has been weird the last few days. That's all I can say. But a lot of people have it a lot worse than me. I mean, a lot of people have died, and a lot of people are missing in these floods. So um, I'm here. I'm participating, and that's about as much as I can expect out of myself right now. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard.
Hi, I'm Kate. I live about 40 minutes north of Seattle, near the sovereign lands of the Tulalip tribes people. Um, I stumbled upon, this was my first gathering. I stumbled upon this place in many of my other, I went down kind of a research hole. I was actually concerned about the patterns historically of socioeconomic collapse in United States history, and I was kind of going through research in that, and it caused me to follow the intersectional collapses that are happening simultaneously, and so that's what brought me to becoming a collapse aware, and it was a really difficult journey um, to realize like where we really were. And I was so delighted that in my research, YouTube recommended one of the posted recordings, which is where I first observed Dean and Richard having a conversation in a small group. It was just the two of them, but hearing them say things that I had been feeling and thinking, but didn't have conversation partners was really healing.
Hmm.
Um, it was deeply validating just to kind of hear that the conversation take place. So I check in by saying, and I'm like a community organizer and deeply immersed in the like Christian circles and very, very concerned about like the Christian fascist movement and or what would claim to be the Christians. Anyway, and all of its involvement and the impact of that on our social service programming. And I don't think that I'm I'm in no way a denialist, and it's very much like, like if somebody's dying, if the grandkids are coming in, you don't pretend that the grandparent is okay, but nor do you like itemize all the ways that they're deteriorating, right? You just try to make the most of that moment as you hold their hand through that transition. It feels like that's what I'm doing professionally a lot, is like we're not denying, but we're just trying to like create the most loving transitions as we can as we interact. But I still need a place where I'm not facilitating and just trying to make the best of a hard thing, and instead have a place where I can also grieve. And observing the videos and going through the coursework available online has been, again, just really healing. So I'm really thankful to be here today. So thanks for creating this place, Dean, and for your commitment to letting it be available, you know, when people come and even when they don't, and all the places in between. So, and I request like community permission. I will be way more able to be engaged and listen if I'm allowed to color at the same time as we're together. So I'm going to be doing that. If my head is down, I don't want you guys to think I'm not engaged. It'll just help me be present. So thanks, friends.
All right. Kate, really good to have you here. Good to hear that it's working to some degree to for someone to be mostly connected through recordings and the like. And if there's some kind of chance for you and me to connect offline to get some feedback about that experience, it would be very, very useful for me because I don't get much of that. But again, thank you so much. And I also just want to welcome Sheila. So great to see you. Are you going to be able to be with us for the whole of this session?
Uh, am I muted?
No, we hear you.
Okay, great. I'm not sure, and I apologize for stepping in late, but when I can, I like to. So I'll listen for now, and if I can contribute in any way, I will.
Okay, great. And so we're right in the middle of doing allegedly short check-ins, but it's always a bit longer than than one might ask. Um, and so there's just one of us, one more of us to check in, and then if you would be willing to check in, just what you're arriving with. What is it that has you be in this kind of circle, that kind of thing. And so just you could be, I know that you're very able to step right into the role of checking in. So I'm going to ask Thomas if you'd be willing to check in. How you doing? What are you arriving with in your time with us today?
Yeah, hello. Um,
Hi.
um, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I'm calling from Copenhagen in Denmark, and I just like to come here for what's the word? Affirmation. And to just I love the deep conversation we often end up having, and I just like to come here to maybe be reassured that uh yeah, I'm not the only one feeling this way. I try to I try not to pay too much attention to the news. I'm not I'm I mean I'm not trying to be the ostrich sticking its head in the sand, but I just find that it's much better for my psyche when I don't dwell too much on the news, and I instead try to surround myself with things. Yeah, just music, listen to music I like, watching movies or series that uh, give me a wholesome feeling, read books. But yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to ignore, and um, especially here in Denmark, we've often been envied by much of much of the world because of our huge social security net and welfare system. And it's always been something I've always been very proud of my country. And our current politicians are slowly trying to dismantle all that.
Mm.
And they're trying to constantly make life harder for everyone except themselves. Just now, they lowered benefits for people who are disabled and people on who are receiving some kind of benefits, whether it be because of physical or psychological ailments, because they think if they make life even harder for them, they will automatically go out and get a job. And yeah, it's
Right.
yeah, I mean, trying to remove their livelihood, yeah, I don't think that's a good way to motivate people. So yeah, they've just raised the retirement age in Denmark to I think the highest in Europe, while they gave themselves a raise. And yeah, a member of Danish Parliament can retire when they're 60. I have to. I won't be able to retire until I'm 70. Um, so yeah, it's. Sorry, I'm gonna I'm gonna finish up now, but it's just sad seeing the what's happening in my country and just the indifference that people here just. I mean, there's no solidarity between people, and it's only until people are personally affected. Um, but yeah, what our elected officials are doing to our country right now, and the way they're trying to dismantle Uh, one of the things that really make Denmark a great country. It's just sad to witness.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's yeah, just a final note. It seems like, and no offense to uh, to Americans, but it's like the Danish elected officials. They are trying to turn Denmark into the European equivalent of America. That's what it seems like.
Uh,
No safety measures, no safety nets, and just you're on your own basically. And yeah, if you get sick or lose your job, if you experience anything outside your control, then yeah, you're just on your own. And yeah, it's tragic to
that
witness.
sucks.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
It is
and
tragic.
I'm sorry for not being on camera, but I want to assure everyone I'm present and I'm listening. And yeah,
All right.
yes,
Thank you,
thanks.
Thomas. And I'm
Thanks. Yeah.
very sorry that we have exported our cruelty to
Yeah.
country.
Me too.
All right. Sheila, would you like to check in and let us know what it is that you're bringing? What is showing up on your screen in terms of things that are important to you, either heavy or inspiring on your heart? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Um, well, I was outside being eaten alive by the mosquitoes, and my Rottweiler was on the other side of the door protesting that I wasn't in with her. So I've moved back in the house. Now she's happy. She's sound asleep on the floor. This is a dog that I rescued in October, and she has decided that I am her person.
Hmm.
My husband gets second fiddle. Listening to Thomas and talking about uh, the uh, the social securities aspect, we have all of that in Canada as well. And when I think about 50 years ago when I was nursing and how when that started and how incredible that was, and to notice the incredible change over the last 50 years, so that what we had then, this it was just, it was robust and powerful and kind. And I'm finding these days it's I don't know whether it happens to be with the rise of technology or what, but it's way less robust and it's way less kind. And I think it shows up in the professionals who, God bless them, the nurses and the doctors, for example, who keep staying the pace, but it's really hard for them. Um, I haven't I haven't actively nursed in a lot of years. I built retail businesses. Even retail's taken a massive shift from 40 years ago to now. And now that I'm coaching and educating, people still have the same issues, same problems. Only I think now, uh, uh, in some ways, they're becoming more resourceful, and a lot of them are looking to be at cause for the creation of their own realities, and that on the other side of that is still scary because it seems that every day um, we're stepping into an unknown quantity, and it's changing really fast. I just remarked that I get up in the morning and I might be up at 7 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock that night it feels like 2 months have passed through. And I have to think back to what I started out doing my day with and what my intention was for being there. And am I just being present, or am I just doing things to get through the day? So those are the awarenesses that I come in with.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Whew. So back at the beginning of this particular Zoom session, I promised to share with you kind of a shift in the usual agenda for this online course, which is the longest form course that we've ever offered or I've ever offered here. It's officially a 12-month course from September 2024 to September 2025. And the way it's looking is well, first I should tell you that I have never retooled a course offering as much as I have retooled this one. The demands have been massive just by the sheer nature of what has come wave after wave, either from the participants early in September of 2024. Their feedback was quite bold and clear, and so that it was lovely. I mean, uncomfortable for me because, gosh, it was somehow we don't want this, we want that. So I was doing my best to respond through a couple of waves of that, and I believe it went fairly well. But the next couple of rounds of changes were far larger, and the biggest one is probably obvious to us all that the January of 2025, it just became a different world. And so many of the issues that are sometimes called the poly crisis that we're all in, uh, they all still exist, and ain't none of them getting better. But the intensity and urgency of some of them have really demanded a full tilt change again. Now is another relatively minor shift. And so I'd like to just briefly recap for y'all. First, may I just get hands of, and really there's no judgment here. I'm just looking for a bit of feedback to know what people are able to access and have capacity for. Can I see hands of those of you who have gone to the Living Resilience online community space? You know your way around, you know where the course materials are, things like the recordings that Kate's holding her hand up about right now. So if you have visited there and are, somewhat familiar, or maybe even very familiar, and I think it was just Kate, your hand. Was there anybody else who held up a hand? I'm sorry, Richard. Okay, thank you. And Thomas. Okay,
Somewhat. Yeah.
okay. And so one thing that I have intended all along and have not changed. In fact, if I've changed anything about this element I'm about to mention, it's that I've added more. And that is the commitment to include beauty. And that is often through art or poetry or music, songs, movement, meaning, some recorded dance. I have a possible addition that I'm happy to include at the end of today. Uh, is It's the official corny music movement time that I do on a regular basis. And I have this little pocket of music that I put these old favorites in, and they're mostly old because I'm mostly old. But it's quite remarkable. I've been doing this for a lot of years, this adding corny music into course time when the room just needs to move a little bit and move in a way that is pleasant and we can do together no matter what age we are. So there's a bit of that in every month's course material in that Living Resilience online community space, in the place where the courses are. So if you haven't visited it, I would invite you warmly to check it out. There's this course will shift again really soon because we're coming on the official ending. September will be here before we know it. And that'll be the last official in this form months worth of course material. And it will shift. It will shift to something that will be a continuously morphing cycle of a 4 or 5-ish course segments. And those will reflect if you've checked out the first couple of videos in the course materials, one of them is a Canadian blogger named Paul Chafurka. And Paul Chafurka, a number of years ago, I want to say 15 years ago, gave us a way to look at how can a person approach being more connected with the web of life. The stages of awareness is what he calls it. And he's a part-time Buddhist by his own admission. And there's a little bit of Buddhist structure in what he describes, but basically he takes us from a complete denial of anything to do with the systemic nature of life through a few stages, I think 4 or 5 stages in his stages of awareness, up in each stage of awareness up the ladder, brings us to a more of a sense of connection with the various systems and interrelated systems that make up the web of life. And I'm going to give you just a very brief show. I'm going to share my screen and show you a little graphic that I've made that will show you these stages of awareness from Paul Chafurka. Okay, can y'all see that? Stages?
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
okay. And so the big blue blob on the left is where the vast majority of people on the planet are all the time and will be for the rest of their lives. And that's just the way it is. It's just the customary way we have of being human beings in this 21st century global life. And what he's suggesting is that each step up the stages of awareness involves fewer and fewer people will be making these changes, making these steps up this ladder. So the next one is the awareness of one problem. Something rattles my cage out, so I get a sense that, wait a second, this business as usual, everything is not fine. Everything is not okay. I don't, um, I really it would be a mistake to think that this is my perfect world and everything's going just fine for all of us. I don't think anybody truthfully is quite that naive as I'm saying, and so I apologize if that's a little too Pollyanna. But there is a level of sleepness to the core elements that make up any one of the existential issues that is now called the polycrisis. So that's, again, the business as usual kind of sleep that Paul Chafurka brings our attention to at the beginning. The one problem is something gets our attention that rattles us enough to start to wonder, wait a second, this is weird. Like, why is this going on? And that could be something very personal, an illness or an accident or a relationship breakup or it could be losing a job. It could be um, a very disturbing political change in the country in which a person's living, could be anything. But it's enough to get one's attention and to rattle that attention. The next level up is uh, that there are many problems. It's not just that one thing that just whipped me up the side of the head. It's there's a bunch of stuff going on that's really not okay. And I look around and it sure enough, that those problems and more are affecting literally everybody. And I know that this can sound like hyper obvious, but there's a way in which Paul Chafurka lays this out, and I'm happy to supply a link to his original essay. It's just brief and clear, and there's a way in which he spells out these steps that when I look around, he actually reflects a pretty clear picture of what it's like to become more and more aware of the systemic nature of our world. The next level up is many interrelated systems, and each of those systems involving problems. And this, you may have noticed also the words above is practices for resilience and reclaiming center. That's where this work comes in that I've mentioned earlier on, that we sometimes call this the inner work of collapse. In this particular arena, which is the vast majority of where folks stick around in this work if they're gonna, is they start to take on practices that expand their ability, their capacity to be present in the face of all those problems, in the face of all those challenges. that's the kind of work we can do together when we sit in this kind of circle. The last step in Paul Chafurka's stages of awareness is interrelated human-caused predicaments. And my apologies for the tiny lettering there, but I just felt appropriate to the size of that's the smallest number of people by an order of magnitude then started with us back at business as usual. It's a tiny number of people who are going to get to this level of awareness of the interrelatedness of all the systems and an awareness of the predicaments that we have created for ourselves within those systems. So any questions about this brief reminder or layout of this stages of awareness? Okay.
So, just an example of interrelated systems with problems. Would that be, um, I don't know, something like crop failure, which then leads to
Yeah.
a, a spike in rises, uh, what's it called? A spike in prices and inflation and
Sure. Sure. Thank you. I think a bold and hopefully clear example will be looking back just a couple of years ago to the pandemic and how there were these cascades of supply chain issues that occurred for various reasons, from people not being able to go to work, so there'd be a breakdown in the service sector, or as you mentioned, Thomas, crop failure or a breakdown in the supply chain, so that some food products were just unable to be shipped in a good way, and so on. That's just one kind of bold example of the interrelated systems. Anybody else? Anything else about that stuff? Yeah, please, Sheila.
Uh, I look at that and I think of logical levels of thinking and the recognition that the deeper, more aware you become, the more deeply aware you become of patterns, pattern recognition.
Yes.
And then with the pattern recognition, it's really the bigger question is, how is this working for me? And where do you support it? And where do you not support it?
Yeah.
And they're so subtle. They are so subtle that very often, if we default to business as usual, which is really easy to do because you know, we engage with other people every day, and you know, it's easy to get hypnotized. If you can't see the pattern recognition, you won't even be aware that you're engaging it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that's the big thing for me, is recognizing patterns and then whether I'm going to engage or not.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What resonates for me particularly about what you're sharing, Sheila, is that you may notice the words above that many problems, green dot in the center. It says practices for resilience and reclaiming center. And I think what you were just describing sounded to me like what I call reclaiming center, meaning I'm at the center of this system, and the patterns that I'm noticing are the same kind of patterns that indicate that one has a center and the system has a center and so on. That's a longer and rich conversation, but I sure appreciate you sharing about that. Thank you.
Well, I think it suggests that to build on what you just said,
Mm,
There's uh, we are at the center, but we are the center of it. And in that place, you cannot hold yourself as a victim if you're going to be effective.
hmm hmm
So, and when I know I'm being a victim, I know that I've gone down here. You know,
Right,
I've gone down to business as usual.
right.
Okay, thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we are remarkably close to the end of this first hour-long session. We'll be in just a few minutes, just a couple of minutes, we're going to be going to a 30-minute break and come back to a 90-minute session. So that'll be 10:30 to noon Pacific time. And I look forward to those who can stay for that second session to be able to dive into a piece that we go into a bit more often in the deep dive experiential uh, support groups that we have here in Living Resilience. And that is what I would call soul work. Kind of where Sheila was just pointing us at the top end of Paul Chafurka's scale, the that part that depth and soul work is uh, is a remarkable and potent um, hmm, kind of a home base for folks to be able to turn into the scale of challenge that we're seeing these days. You know, what Thomas was sharing with us about what's going on in the decimation of their longstanding social safety net. And for here in this country, the in the USA, what's going on with basically a fascist dictatorship coming in less than 6 months' time. It's been extraordinary, and the inner resources that one could call on. I and we who are in this particular part of the conversation quite often each week together, it seems like the home base that we could land in to be able to be effective, to be able to be present in the face of this kind of challenge, I would call this soul work. It is an extraordinary and almost completely missing element in, I can speak only to the USA consciousness
Yeah.
days. It seems like we are at the opposite end of the spectrum. We're on like an anti-soul part of the continuum. And so we've really made it our singular focus to return ourselves to that soul work, to that soul connection that we might be able to have with one another, that kind of um, unperturbable center that I think Sheila, you were talking about, that there's a solidness when a person comes to that being at cause in one's life at the core. That's a remarkable stability that it seems like our current administration and the national culture in the USA is committed to eliminating that experience in the individual and collective level. Seems like it's doing everything it can to rip that out by its roots. So that's previews of coming attractions. We're going to be heading into that zone in about 30 minutes when we get back from the break. Is there anybody who will not be joining us for the second session? Oh, great. Wonderful. I so appreciate everyone's uh, ability to do an improvisational dance in this session, from having uninvited guests that we had to escort out the door to very welcome other guests that showed up a little bit into the session. And so glad that you have shown up. Um, I'm just feeling a warmth and appreciation of each of y'all's sharing, and I very much look forward to seeing you. Same link in a half an hour. It's half past the hour.
Great. See you all then.
No, hey,